Just getting stuff working, running. Only two people here, which is usually normal for initial times. Um, hmm. Okay, so okay, I think we're almost ready. Accelerate outside the tampering, examine the case. Case to extent. Spell. Okay. Give me a sec. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so today is Tuesday, and I want you to sum up what Hubert is going to do within the trophy room based on what I've said. Please. All right, let's try that. Tuesday recap of Hubert's trophy room plan stitched from what you've laid out so far. Here's a trophy room where old magic relics, prized mementos, past students, and faculty are displayed. Look for anything useful that might help him restore his missing magic or break. So, see, I see it's inferring. You know, it still infers incorrectly. I don't care how advanced it is; it still infers incorrectly. I'm guessing it's. I'm guessing the whole problem is always not enough information or processing power, right? Because given enough information and processing power, it should be able to just go just like a human. But anyways, it's not important. He doesn't notice that they've been tripped. Are you gone? No. That's a different part of the story. Uh, it it seems you got some of the story incorrect and are confusing it with some stuff related to Sir William. Also going into Wizard U, but a different time. This is okay. I just wanted a memory refresh. I might have to go back to those previous deals with the mouse and let him like try. Uh, this is an interesting thought here. Um, Presumably, you put up these preventatives, these like the magic preventative, right, to stop anybody from getting into the school. And you'd think that if he couldn't break them, then if he couldn't break them, then how do I say it? He shouldn't be able to break it. So there's a couple things, right? Um, I might have to redo the logic completely because it kind of tends to break down a little bit. Um, I was going with the tripwire idea because then I wanted him to be able to go in and out without any problem. But I actually have to shrink down necessarily every time. But um, uh, let's see. Pardon me. Here, let's go to desktop. That's one thing I'm screwing up on. Okay, there we go. Desktop. Thank you to the you two that are listening. You're incorrect, but you don't need to correct it. I may need to completely revisit the whole portal logic thing. Um, so this is what I was thinking. It's still like a tripwire. Okay, what does a tripwire do? A tripwire usually alerts someone silently, or it sets off an explosion, right? Like a grenade. Like some grenades attach to the tripwire, so when you pull it, it pulls the pins, and boom, you're gone. Or like a laser project a laser alarm system, right? You break the laser path, and then it sets off alarms, right? So wards could prevent them. Wards could just notify the placer of the wards that an incursion's been made. If we can presume presumably open a portal anywhere. They can open a portal within the college. He doesn't need a way to get in. That would defeat that. So I need something to stop him. That's why I was doing the magic resistant, the portal magic resistant wards, so that he wouldn't be able to go in there. And so the only way he could get in there uh, is physically like he did. Now, an incursion, if it's like a force field, then even the mass hole would trip it, would stop you from being able to. That's already a hole. So the reason I'm thinking I might have to rethink everything is if it was intended to keep you out, uh, and you broke it, it means anyone can go back in there. That might not be ideal if you're a villain. You don't want any chance the hero is going to pop in and out as well. You know the crux of it. It doesn't know what the crux of it is. Alright. If Hubert can just bust through it once and says open cities and all the villains basically build a screen door instead of a ward, that isn't what a smart baddie would want, protecting their evil grad school. Well, just protecting the school in general, but just basically making sure that nobody can go in there and get any information that they want or anything that would help them. You can solve this without tossing out the fun portal idea. Self-healing words. Hubert can brute force them, but the words reknit themselves after a short time. He can only sit through with careful timing. Once he's in, it won't stay open for anyone else. One-way trick. You can create a portal into the warded space, but once inside, the ward's grip and prevent exit the same way. In other words, you can break in, but you just can't portal hop out. Great tension for an escape scene. Personal bypass key. Hubert's spell works because of a specific magic signature, may be tied to his old half-lost power. To anyone else, the words are still solid, even if Hubert's tricks temporarily weaken them. That way, you can keep the hero squeezes through with cleverness without turning the whole fortress into a magical revolving door. So, thanks. I'm still considering how I want it all to work. This is kind of an annoying thing here because it's like how do I say it? Um Let me think. I gotta think of a good example though. I can't think of in recent memory. I can always see it when I watch it. When I'm seeing, there's a sometimes in movies there's a deal where um, you don't want them to just be able to break and do anything like the Superman syndrome, and so they figure out some kind of thing, and they just say, "Well, because you just can't do it. You just can't," you know. And they don't really explain it, and they don't give you a reason, and they don't, when there's plenty of ways to do other stuff. I wish I could come up with an example though, because it would so help illustrate my point. I've seen it time and time again. Um, I could ask something like Grok to come up with the example because it could probably search through multiple screenplays to actually give me an idea of what I'm talking about. Actually, they did some of that in Knight Rider. I mean that it was pretty bad example where Kit could do some things at sometimes, and other times he just totally couldn't. You know. Let's see here. Anyways, none of it's coming to mind, so I guess that analogy's out. But so it's just like you do one thing and then the whole logic falls apart, and so you have to go, well, what can I do here? What can I do here? If Superman could do anything and everything, uh, then what is there for him to overcome, right? He can just, I don't know, he can just stop bullets and whatever. There's nothing that hurts him, so he's all invincible, right? So that's why they introduced kryptonite, because kryptonite is kind of the one thing that stops him, right? And I believe the invention of kryptonite, and I don't know, I haven't read the original comics or anything, but the idea would be that the fact that he can do everything else, he can fly, or back in the day he could only jump, but still he could jump. Bullets bounce off of him, that sort of thing. Um, so you still need something to hurt him, something that he has to actively work towards or work against, right? Because Superman can do everything, he can just do everything, and then there's that's why you constantly need the CGI supervillains that do worse and worse and bigger, and you know if you want a good example of how um, how the superhero movies act, uh, look up and watch the Tex Avery short King Size Canary. It's hilarious because basically I forget which one finds it, but like this mouse, there's this canary, and then there's this cat. I think is how it works. Maybe it's just the canary and the cat because they had like a couple variations. But the cat, the mouse, and the canary, and the canary stumbles on some sort of potion that he accidentally drinks or whatever, and it makes him grow big and strong. And then eventually the cat gets it. He chases the mouse, and the mouse gets it, and then they keep on drinking it and grow bigger and bigger. And that's kind of what the problem you have with a lot of the modern superhero movies. You have stuff where they can do everything so easily that they need something bigger and worse and badder and more extreme to be able to have something to overcome. And then, of course, then you get the CGI fatigue. You get this kind of this what they call the superhero fatigue, which superhero fatigue itself is, I don't think, is a thing. If you still wrote a good story about a superhero and it's character based and stuff, and doesn't have as much computer graphics that they can pour in, then it would probably still be a good movie, and people wouldn't get tired of that. People are tired of. They're not necessarily tired of the superheroes as much as they're tired of seeing the over CGI'd, uh, um, mega action smashing whatever that you find in a lot of the superhero movies. The reason the original Superman the movie worked was because it was a character story about Superman and Lois Lane, and it was mostly about him. In fact, the supervillains, Zod, Ursa, and Non, I guess, from the original, Superman 2, that wasn't until the second one, right? They didn't introduce them. And even they are not some big, whatever, big as a planet thing that, some super big monster or something. They're just three people like him that happen to be evil, and there are three of them, which makes it drives up the stakes for him, right? And the reason that we get tired of these movies is because they don't really have any substance. It's kind of funny too because when you think of a popcorn movie is like an action movie which doesn't have much substance, and you're watching it for the action. That's what you watch it for. Um, and so, in a sense, you could consider, let's say, Raiders of the Lost Ark a popcorn movie, but they put just enough romance, just enough comedy, just enough, of different stuff into it that it doesn't feel empty. In fact, you can watch a popcorn movie that does kind of feel empty. And a good example to me is Independence Day, the original Independence Day. To me, that's a thing. Is you're looking at the spectacle, the special effects, some of the over the top comedy in it, um, and it doesn't have anything of substance. I don't really care about any of those characters. I'm just wondering what crazy thing Will Smith's going to say next, you know, or whatever, right? Or what the alien ships are going to do, or stuff like that. You know, Raiders of the Lost Ark has pathos, and it's got emotional content and drama. You know, Marion and Indy have a history, and so does Belloc and his adversary. They have a history, and you know, you kind of care about the characters. Even Sala, um, um, even though he's not a big part of the plot, um, you get to you get into his character. You get into his kind of like he likes life and he likes everybody, and he's kind of the big friend kind of guy, and so even that, and so there's popcorn movies and then there's popcorn movies, uh, maybe you have a popcorn movie. Maybe it's like gourmet popcorn, and maybe it's got melted cheese because you like melted cheese. I'm not saying everybody likes melted cheese, but you really love the melted cheese sauce on your popcorn. And versus going to the movie theater, a regular movie theater, and getting like movie theater butter popcorn, right? It's good, it's okay, you like it, but it's not that gourmet stuff that you really love, right? It doesn't have any substance to it, so you just eat it, and it's more of an action you do while watching the movie. You still like it, but it's not lasting. It doesn't give you a satisfaction like the gourmet popcorn with the cheese sauce does on it, right? I'm not even saying you like cheese sauce because you might not, but anyways, why was I going off on that? No, I always do that, right? Okay. Anyways, okay. So yeah, so there's movies where the logic breaks down where they just say, well, I just can't. You can't do that, you know. And they don't really give you any excuse as to why you can't do something, right? Or that sometimes there's a way around something. Maybe the character's going to die. A character decides that they're going to give up um, and give up their life for something, right? A movie that does it right has something that is fruitful from it, that comes something out of it, that you feel for the character, and then the ones that don't, they're just doing the thing because they do the thing, you know. I don't know. It's hard to explain, I guess. But okay, so you're going okay. Well, what different things could he do? Well, you know, he can. Oh, well, let's do a hypothetical scenario. Let's say you're doing a western, and you're the good guy, and you've been accused of murder or horse stealing or something, and you're in the jail, and you you need to get the keys off of the sheriff and or the deputy who's ever attending to the jail, and so what you do is you do some sort of goofy thing like, acting like you're sick or whatever, so they'll come over. And when he gets close to him, then you grab him by the throat and you say, I'm gonna squeeze if you don't give me the keys, right? Well, if you're any deputy worth your salt, you are not going to allow him to get that close, right? So it's always a classic thing, and they always do it in the old westerns a lot. So it's not like they never do that or whatever, but it's like they always seem to do it quite a bit. But if I'm a good deputy or whatever, I'm not just gullible and stupid. Like if you didn't show me as a character that was gullible and stupid throughout the whole movie, I as a deputy or a sheriff would not fall for the whole sick thing. Or what I do is I have my guns drawn. I have maybe both the sheriff and the deputy there in the jail, and he tells the deputy to have his guns ready, so he has his guns out, so that when you get close, and then the other thing, of course, is the keys. Uh, the keys aren't there. Maybe he leaves the keys on the desk, not where the not on this person where the bad guy could get it, right. So you have to keep thinking of these things. Well, what happens if this happens? Okay, so now he's trapped. What do you do here? Well, you can't do that because that's unrealistic. Okay, what do you do here? It's just that sort of thing. And that's what I keep on running into. And I guess that's why I'm having such trouble trying to figure this out. Oh, two people left. Two people come in, two people left. I guess they got tired of me not doing anything and just talking. Yeah, that's part of my problem is talking. Um, you'd say that the talking is slowing things down, but actually, what's slowing things down is me not being able to think stuff fast enough. That makes me need to do the talking, right? Anyways, let's figure this out. Uh, sure. Words prevent any magic from passing through. Portal spells. If Hubert tries to open a portal inside, it fails outright. Feeling friendly once it's locked and no one's popping in or out. Downside limits your story options if you want Hubert inside. Break and enter model. Words can be broken or bypassed with effort. If Hubert breaks in, he can open a portal inside. Problem breaking equals permanent hole. Others can use it. Heroes later. Villains might not like this vulnerability. One-way key model. Certain people, villains or whoever set the wards, can pass freely. Everyone else is blocked. You are need to trick the wards into thinking he has the permission. Keeps villains safe from heroes unless the heroes acquire the key. There could be a possible deal in that. I didn't even think about that. Obviously, if Max set up the wards initially, or Violet maybe, then they can easily bring him down, or they can easily bypass him, like a key, right? Like they do have a key. Portal inside, not outside model. Words prevent teleportation into the location, but not out of it. Hubert could escape by portal if trapped, but can't directly pop inside. Gives villains control while still letting Hubert slip out in emergencies. Anchor model. Portals work, but only certain anchor points inside designated safe rooms, ley line spots, etc. Boards don't block spell portals entirely. They just restrict where you can land. Villains could allow their own entry point while blocking random arrivals. Leaky ward model. Wards are imperfect, strained, or damaged. Finds a thin spot to push a portal through. This keeps the integrity of the villain's plans while allowing a unique opening for the story. Not yet. Okay. Okay, so let's go back to the original thing. The original deal was Hubert had to find a way to get into the school. It's locked. Okay, and the only way he could find was through the mouse hole. Okay, I got that. That's a physical thing, and there, at that time I didn't have a thing about having words and stuff on it. Um, so it, okay, so actually, I'm gonna ask ChatGPT what it thinks the vulnerability is of this that I'm even talking about. I gotta nail this down somehow. Somehow I gotta nail it down. Okay. Um. Okay. Let's go back to the start. Uh. Let's forget about um. Let's go back to the start. Okay. Initially, Hubert approaches Wizard U. And needs a way in because it's locked. The little mouse, helps him get in. Okay. So, what is the vulnerability? I spell vulnerability. Vulnerability. Of this scenario. Scenario. Locked. Hero wants in. A little mouse something inside potential. Guns. Thought they sealed the school. They overlooked the fact that smaller increase. Okay. Magical barriers aren't flawless. Okay, so this is not the conclusion I wanted. You're actually correct, though. But what I would, what I was hoping you would come up with is the fact that Max, being a wizard, being an evil sorcerer, knows that there are good wizards out there, and even probably knows Hubert is out there too. So the actual vulnerability is the fact that wizards can find alternative magic means of entering the school. Originally, it didn't have any magical barrier because I haven't thought of it. Makes a lot of sense. You're right. The real vulnerability is in the typical locked door. It's the locking a door doesn't stop someone who also has magic. Max is crafty, but he's also arrogant. In this mind, just locking the place up is fine because 90% of the population and 200 students and minor staff who wouldn't dare tamper with the school once he declared it closed. He might not anticipate or deliberately underestimate Hubert because Hubert's diminished magic. Max knows Hubert lost half of his magic, so he might think, what's he going to do? Knock politely. Max is focused. He's more worried about other villains and rivals than the few goody two-shoes wizards sneaking around. Hubris. Classic evil sorcerer flaw, and the strongest, therefore no one else matters. So yes, actual vulnerability is the assumption that only locked door, mundane, or magical was necessary. In truth, any decent wizard could cobble together a workaround, mouse allies, small loopholes, or forgotten magical access paths. This actually opens a neat design choice for you. Maybe Wizard U did once have proper magical wards, but Max took them down to save energy resource because he figured brute force fear was enough to keep the people away. Or maybe he layered protections but overlooked one really silly loophole. Familiars are still allowed by default, so Hubert piggybacks on the mouse. That way you can keep the story consistent. His school should have been magically locked against wizard intrusion, but Max's arrogance or oversight leaves just enough wiggle room for Hubert to slip in. Do you want me to stretch out a couple of concrete loophole types Max might leave it behind? Well, okay, so this sort of makes me think this is a kind of classic what I would call a writer's block because I'm assuming that no one else would think twice of the fact that it doesn't have any magical barriers. Of course, most people might not think of it. Maybe just me because I'm designing it. When you're designing every story, you really want the villain to be smart and not dumb. So it feels like the protagonist, it feels like the hero is being matched for wit. There is a lot of shows and games that sort of do this. A classic example, I should say, a possible example for an adventure game. There's a padlock, and you must use the bolt cutters. However, there's also a chain link fence. So instead of allowing the player to use the bolt cutters, you design a clever, let's say, find something to use as a shovel and dig your way out. I just completely forgot I could also use the bolt cutters on the fence. Well, and they just problem, which is the writer's equivalent to leaving your zipper down in front of an audience, or maybe everyone notices, but the ones who do can't unsee it. That's a great analogy there, ChatGPT. What a great AI you are. What you're describing is exactly the gap the villain or designer unintentionally looks dumber than they should because a much simpler solution is obvious. And you're right, clever villains need to feel like they've considered this same obvious stuff the player or reader would. So when the hero finds a way around it, it's not because the villain was lazy, it's because the hero is clever, braver, or gets lucky. Your bolt color versus chain link fence example is perfect. If you don't acknowledge the bolt cutters, it looks like you're ignoring the easy way. But if you lampshade it, the fence is made of magically reinforced chain that your cutters can't scratch, then you're suddenly so clever writer you've kept the villain smart. Oh, well, that's not entirely true either. Because that's kind of the other kind of example. And the other kind of example says, well, what if it just has magic on it? Well, I just come up with a device automatically. Now, I know I have magic in my story, right? So I'm not saying that you shouldn't have magic. There's nothing to do with the magic itself. It's the fact that um, um, you suddenly you put up something that I don't know. It could be intentional. In other words, I could have a that I even showed before, some sort of a thing that reinforces physical things like bars or chain link fence or a lock or something metal. Let's say it's a metal strengthening spell, and that's what it does. And so then the bolt cutters won't work on it. But let's just say it's got a magic spell cast on it, so you can't cut through it. Well, um, the so the only logic is that you can't put magic on the bolt on the padlock, but you can put magic on the metal chain link fence, right? So let's see. With Max, he uses it. No magical barrier. Max looks like he overlooks something obvious. If you add a barrier, but establishes that clever, powerful wizards can still bypass it. And then Max looks competent and gives your hero an earned opportunity. There's a difference between a plot hole and a challenge. And one, the villain feels dumb. The other, the villain feels smart, but the hero proves himself smarter. Um, and there's also something that you made me think of with the fence is made of magically reinforced chain that your cutters can't scratch. This is also a flaw because let's say you use the bolt cutters on the padlock but can't on the magic fence. Now, why couldn't you reinforce the padlock like you did with the fence? I mean, you might be able to come up with something logical sounding, but not a true solution. I'm giving it some hard thinking longer for better answer. See, I'm giving it all the I'm plugging up the holes, right? It's kind of like plugging up the holes in the plot. Oh, plot holes. Let's see what it comes up with. So so you want every barrier to be in tension, and you want it to still have a logic that works with other things that it's supposed to work with. So if I make if I have a magically reinforced metal spell, and I put it on the fence, but I don't put it on the padlock, then as a writer, I haven't done my job well, because that means that the villain didn't think of that, you know. And if it was his intention, if it was your intention for him to be dumb like that or to overlook something like that, that is fine. But it should be intentional. In other words, it shouldn't be because I didn't think of every possible scenario. You know, it should be because intentionally did that. You're right to sniff this stuff out. The why didn't they just reinforce the padlock like the fence? Feeling is the kind of nitpick you can yawn into a plot unless you either change the mechanics so the nitpicks impossible or explicitly acknowledge and justify the design trade-offs in a world so the villain still reads as competent. That's exactly what I'm saying, and it's not even done coming up with its answer here. Uh, Tidy usable ways to patch a logic group by technical fix in a world of rationale and story UX moves you can drop into the text to preempt the eyebrow raisers. Different defense classes: physical reinforcement, hex metal fence, resist cutting tools, magical ward to resist spells. They're not interchangeable. Result: bolt cutters do nothing to a hex metal padlock because the shackle's made of ruined metal that could resist the mechanical shear. Active countermeasures on locks. Padlocks are ordinary looking but have runic strike countermeasures tamper with the metal, and the lock emits an alarm or pulse or auto seals with the micro ward. Result: cutting triggers an almost instant magical reaction, so brute force fails. Access attunement requirement to reward. Re-enchanting a padlock requires attunement to a building ley line. It takes time ritual. You can't just upgrade every lock overnight. Result: you can't quickly make every padlock as secure as the fence without big resources. Pearls versus physical breaches are different attack vectors. The wards were specifically designed to block incoming portals at scale, people size, not to stop micro manipulation logics inside. Device exploits the micropores. See, and I don't have a problem with that. That's what I'm going to use for that. But this thing about getting in there and getting out, because at one point I wanted him to be able to leave to grab some hats, because he's going to be doing different spells and he's not always going to be carrying the correct hat, so he needs to be able to have access to all of his hats, or at least if you were doing this if you're doing like Loom, then Loom, Bob Threadbare learns the drafts, so he doesn't have all of them to start with. In this case, Hubert is a powerful wizard, and he partially runs the lands and everything, so he's going to have a number of hats, and so the idea here is just going to be you have to learn the spells. You as the player don't really know the spells. He might have spells in there, or maybe he doesn't remember the spells. He has to look them up, or he has to figure them out. That sort of thing. Um, Explain why the villain didn't do the obvious cost maintenance trade off. You can word everything. You can keep it university usable. A campus with every display worded locks out inspectors, performers, or even students. Used line to drop. The rector insisted if the cases sing every time a tour passes, the visitor will complain. Bureaucratic legal constraints. Laws are academic demand access for inspectors, alumni, lecturers are overwording would break regulations, or the school lose accreditation. Okay. Quick justification line. The board forbids permanent sealing of instructional displays. Okay, operational hazards. High-strength wards interfere with experiments or delicate artifacts. Word fields cook fragile items, so displays are only lightly warded. Favor line. Turns out the ancient porcelain does not enjoy being in a force field. Arrogance risk calculus. Max judged the risk of micro-exploit as negligible compared to the benefit of looser campus flow. Smart villains make calculated concessions. Dialogue. Max didn't bother with teacup proofing. Who would bother with a teacup? Story and UX moves. How to sell this to readers, players so the villains still look sharp. Lampshade it. Have an authoritative NPC, Warden Guard Dean say the exact logic allowed so players don't fill the lap of the villain stupid. We can't word that. It fries the exhibits. This is brief and effective. That's not bad. We don't have anything that can do that right now unless you find something inside a book or a or like a chalkboard that says remember not to overboard you know maybe it's a class that tells you how to block people from physically or magically entering in somewhere, and says remember not to overboard because you don't want to block yourself out, or you don't want to. Yeah, I could do that. Show trade-offs visually. Small plaque or scrap of policy in the trophy room to preserve pedagogical access. The administration forbids full isolation. Players who spot it go, oh, that single marker object does a ton of narrative work. Give the villain a plausibility speak. Let Max appear competent. Show him ordering a fence upgrade, but explicitly saying not the small stuff and efficiency that demonstrates he chose a gap for a reason. Make the exploit clever, not random. Hubert's entry or his deduction should feel earned. He knows an administrative memo or a janitor's route or the university's old familiars allowed clause. That makes the win clever and the villains still smart. Quick applied examples you can drop in line. Plaque on the wall. Note, to allow visiting lecturers and handling tests, display cases are lightly shielded, only permanent full shield damage artifacts. Janitor clip while Hubert sneaks in. They told us not to wear glass. Student projects go kablooey when we do. Fill in aside, Max. I reinforced the perimeter fences and lecture halls, the trophies, child's play. Who would bother with the trinket? Recommendation, one tidy route. If you want the villain to feel competent without redesigning the whole magic system, do both. Make the fence padlock. I wasn't even going to put a fence padlock in it, so it's assuming that I did because I injected it in here as an example. I was trying to say the difference between the writing problem. The writing problem is if he magically strengthened the fence, why can't he magically strengthen the padlock, right? So the bolt coders wouldn't work on either. That's the thing I was getting to here. See, fence upgrade. Okay. Put a 1-2 line justification scene. Explain how your object is harmed in some way. I'm not actually using a padlock or chain link fence. It was just to give an example of the things I, as the creator, have to examine in order to make the writing not feel like it's full of holes like Swiss cheese. Intentionally leaving something off is not a bad idea. We'll use the padlock chain link fence example for this. So the person that's stopping entry is going, the fence will be enough to stop anyone from going in. So they don't need to harden the padlock as long as the fence is doing its job. So that way, at some point you can mention that they did that on purpose. And even that, you have to make sure that you tell the audience that you did that on purpose. You know, maybe there's a scene showing the villain or showing whoever. It doesn't have to be a villain, but showing somebody putting a lock and then closing the fence up, and then casting the spell on the fence to make it indestructible, and but not the lock, right? Saying, "Oh, this fence should be enough to keep anybody out," because they couldn't imagine that they'd actually get past it and actually into the padlock where they could just bolt cut it. To your logic sandbox example, you're thinking like a designer. As long as the primary obstacle is sufficient to enforce the restriction, there's no need to overcomplicate the secondary protections. That end story can actually be a nice detail to drop, a line that shows the villain's deliberate and competent, not sloppy. You could, for instance, have a small side when Hubert there's a word of perimeter like the outer barrier was reinforced enough to stop anyone casual. The smaller locks inside, clearly Max figured they weren't worth the trouble. It communicates intentional design and makes the world feel coherent without dragging down the story necessary technicalities. Okay, so that being the case, then um, let me think. That being the case, I can't justify allowing portals opening within the school grounds. The device, Max's device, is a special case in that it's only within the school and it's specific to what I said before. It opens a tiny portal, whereas normal magic opens a people-sized opening. So I guess the only alternative is that if he wants to open a portal to his house, he needs to leave the school first. Since this is a CYOA style without actual puzzles, it needs to be linear. In other words, um, needs to be linear. So he observes the wards are still intact, but he needs a different set of hats to be able to detect what kind of magic was used. He can fully investigate the room until he gets the right hats. The story pauses while he goes to retrieve them. Reinforces the logic of the OmniGate device. It's a special case, contrived exception that only Max could exploit. Normal portal magic won't fit through the trophy case size opening, and Hubert's half magic can't bypass it. Checks it gives you 3 clear beats for the pages. Hubert examines the room, sees the scepter is missing, notices the words are intact. Realizes he needs the right hats. At some point, linear task for the reader. He leaves, retrieves a hat, return ready to probe the magical traces in the trophy room. I can do that. I don't know if I want to go any farther than this, but what kind of choices does he have? Kind of interesting choices can I put in after he's gotten into the school? Probably within the trophy room, so it doesn't feel so near. Feel interactive by offering choices that doesn't break the story, but let the player feel agency. Since Hubert's investigating the choices, he should feel like investigative options, not arbitrary detours. Hubert might notice the scepter is missing or detecting attempt to touch the remaining trophies, could trigger small, harmless magical reactions, giving clues about the type of magic used, use magical sensory perception. Um, okay. So I probably didn't explain myself well enough. I can make him feel agency once he's got some new hats, and I can choose a few different spells that can be explored in any order. However, this is before that. So this is when he goes into the trophy room the first time. He's going to need something that will let me see, well, help him find out if the wards were tripped. I'm going to go with the fact that even physical tampering causes the wards to trip. But because of the way the school was protected, mouse letting him into his mouse hole doesn't trip anything because it already existed before. Okay. Okay. I've hit my limit. How about them apples? That's weird. That says I fit my limit, but then I'm able to still continue. So the first trophy room visit is about observing the wards, not yet casting spells to investigate what kind of magic was used. At this point, choices can revolve around how Hubert investigates the room to detect whether the wards have been tripped, without breaking the story flow. Inspect the scepter case visually. Wave his hand over the case cautiously. He only sees faint flickers of the ward, but it's enough to tell that the case hasn't been tripped. Listen for unusual hums or vibrations. Examine the room for residual energy. Comment or mutter to himself. Player chasing flavor. Break the fourth wall a little. Something was here. Choices vary in flavor. Okay. Okay. I could even multiple choices that have only a single, have only the same single outcome. And which means one initial choice. Or I could also think of a combination to where he had to do all the things. I might do something a bit wacky, which is give 5 choices, and then the remainder choices are the other 4 in order. If you want, I can draft a mini choice bridge. No, that's okay. I'll figure it out. I think I'm going to find a way to tie the method use see, how do I say this? I think I'm going to find a way to clue in the player how the scepter was stolen based on the choice they made to detect the wards. Given a sense of agency will change the outcome. Paint a natural shimmer around the case like a tiny space bent on itself. This hints at a portal-like mechanism. Magical sensing, hand wave. He senses a residual magic that wasn't cast in the usual way, implying the device alternative method. Listening to your vibration, he hears an unusual resonance, almost like a ping that doesn't match normal portal magic. Another hint that that wasn't normal. Examine residual energy. Detects energy traces leading into the case, but no exit trail, suggesting something reached in without disturbing the wards. Each choice can give the player a small clue, so when Hubert later investigates with spells, they see continuity and feel rewarded for paying attention. I'll think about it. I'm still trying to come up with my own ideas as to what constitutes a useful food. Mm. I can't imagine that this is taking so long. That this is so hard. Um, this particular story point here. And this wasn't even a story beat that was in the original. It was just a note that I did that was one of the possible places he'd go to as a trophy case with something empty, something missing. Uh, Give me a second. Oh, give me a few minutes, I guess. Here. Uh, Give me a few minutes while I think about this. Okay, I have to think. I'm still trying to think. That's why the audio is still on here. Um, I don't know why it's so hard here because it shouldn't be. It should be fairly simple, or it should be. I don't know. Oh yeah, so the my chair keeps going down now. I've been so fat for so long that my chair is just giving up on itself. It's just saying I give up. Okay. It's trying to make sure that the logic works so that you won't go, oh, plot hole, you know. Um, what do I have? I got a little over half an hour if I'm doing a full 2 hour session here. Just pacing back and forth is all I'm doing. So I hopefully people, I don't know. If you leave, that's all right. Uh, but I should be. I'm just trying to decide how I'm gonna handle this. The choice thing. I'm thinking first. I'm thinking of giving. Shoot, five. That's gonna be 64 pages if I do. Five J. Let me ask. If I give something 5 choices, and then you get to choose from the remaining until all of the choices are um, until you went through all 5 choices. How many pages would that be? For instance, 5 choices, each with 4 remaining choices, is 25 pages. Okay. Each 4 remaining choices have 3 choices. It's 25. Now we're going to have right. So each choice has 4 choices. So that's 20, 20 and 5. Okay. And then that's 20. Then each is going to have each of the 20 is going to have 3. 20 times 3. Um so that's 20 times 3 equals 60 pages. Each 60 has 2. That's 120. And then 120 more. From the remaining. That's 25 plus 60 plus 120 plus 120 equals 240. 300. That equals 325 pages. To each of those has 4 remaining choices, 20 pages. Each of those 20 pages, 3 remaining choices, 60 pages. Each of those 60 pages, 2 remaining choices, 120 pages. And 320. So your calculation is correct. No, but 325 seems excessive. So I can't really even 4 is a bit excessive. That results in like 64 pages, I think. That's 4 plus 4 times 3. It's 4 pages. It's 4 initial, 3 remaining, times 4 equals 12. 2 times 12 equals 24. And then another 24, which is 4 plus 12 plus 24 plus 24 equals 48. That's 60. 64. Work up reasonably than 5 choice versions of 325 pages. Uh, okay, let me think for a second. In the classic 3, of course, is you start with 3, then you have 2 choices for each, which is 6, and then 6 remaining, so 6 and 6 is 12, plus 3 is 15, so that's 15 total. I guess I could do a collapsible way. I'm just thinking of different things to kind of make it more interesting. Um, I could kind of do it as an inverse pyramid. 5 choices leads to 4 choices. Leads to 3, leads to 2, leads to final choice. Oh. And then the other thing I can do is I can do pick one and bypass the others kind of thing. Let me think. Still. Um, hmm. Now there is a thing, right? So there's by doing the three, there's 15 pages. That is, you hit every choice in a different order. Um, let me think. Let me think. Let me think. Um, I'm still thinking. If I do a 4x4 with a fixed, I could do a 4 where I collapse them into 2, collapse them into 1, like a reverse pyramid. 6 could collapse into 3 into 1, I guess. 6 6 would collapse because it would be 2 and 2 and 2 would collapse into 3. 3 would collapse into 1. Two and one. 7, 6, 3 and 1, which is 10. Or I could just do the skipping thing where they all five all like for instance if I do 5, this is just for the word detection thing, right? To tell if it's tripped. They can all lead to the same. I can give them flavor text though. It's fairly when you play it, it's fairly linear. Like you get 5 choices, and then you don't get you do a continue, and it maybe that's how we should do it. And then the thing about the actual I can do a more classic thing with the huh. Okay. Okay, for this word detection stuff, I think I'm simply going to do 5 choices. I'll have to come up with 5 choices, but I'll do 5 choices that go to 5 single pages, 1 for each choice. Oh yeah, 5 choices. Right, right, right. Then the flavoring thing, and then it goes into 1. So 5 single pages, which converge in the same final page as a result, which is telling that the words were um, not tripped. Yes, all 5 pages go to the same result, which reveals the words were not tripped. Page count low, still feels interactive. You could also sprinkle in um, no, but go over 5 choices. What 5 different can he do to tell the words weren't tripped? Actually, it's creating it, which is not my intention to use the AI that much, but arcane auditory check. He's a spell to listen to magical vibrations. Hearing the usual hum of the words. And there's the other thing, and that takes a little bit of extra thinking as well, which is the hat magic. Hat magic is going to be sort of important because I was thinking of it along the lines of Loom and the drafts that Bob and Threadbare learns, and so I'm thinking, um, these are for scanning and probing, and the other ones to find out actually what happened is also scanning and probing spells. So they should have, we'll say they have 2 hats in common and one that's not in common because it's what it's a different thing or whatever, or it's a more powerful magic. Maybe the ward scan is that as much of a, as big of a deal, but the what was I saying? What was I saying? I'm probably lacking sleep or something. Okay, hat magic, yeah. Uh, he might. Okay, so he might use hat magic anyways. Digital energy scan, physical inspection, magical insight, interactive objects. All of these are going to be hat spells with the existing hats he has in his bag. Um, he's only going to trade one once he's outside and is able to open a portal to his hat room. Let's have fun. Okay. Um, I wasn't gonna let it tell me that different hats to use. I mean, I can, but I might have a logic there too. I might come up with what it does or what it affects or whatever, so that the spells make sense when you try to use them. And even that's going to take some time to figure out properly. Hand taps the hat rim. Sombrero top hat. No. Okay. Okay. So we have visual and auditory uh, feedback. Any other kind of feedback? Floating trails of sparks. Feel the word is subtle vibration. Okay. Temperature thermal feedback. Make the air near them colder, hotter, or fluctuate slightly. Okay. Arcane residue, trace particles, motes of light. Oh. Mimicking the five senses. Touch, sight, taste, smell, hearing. Okay, that sounds like a good idea. Okay. Now, how can we tie these to the actual theft? Like, what clue would each of these give? I think. The goals for Heward to sense that something unusual happened in the trophy case without immediately revealing Max sight. Something passed through without tripping the word isn't physical tampering. Okay, sight. Okay, got it. Actually, what I was visualizing for sight was actually um, there would be a yeah. Huh. I didn't think about that. Because one of the deals was that he detects that there was a portal open by he sees the entry point or the place where the portal was opened, and so he does that through another spell. Now, maybe there's a directional component, at least in this case. Maybe uh maybe these lights like go from a point. Okay. Touch. And actually, okay, so these could be okay, so these could all be the same. I just thought of something. I just thought of something as well. Well, okay, so one of the spells was an echo where it recreates what happened. At least visually, the device magical signature um, could be a shimmering where the portal was opened at that is somewhere in the air near the case. Okay, and the wards could visually be disturbed by it, but not broken because they faded haven't faded out yet. So the way they flow from this point to the case and then around the case indicates the magic starts at a point. And then when Hubert can see a portal was actually opened here, uh, this is the exact point the portal was actually opened. That's a hint, and that's only one spell though. But at least that's something. Shimmering trace of energy appears in the air, faintly twisting and curving as it moves towards the trophy case. The wards themselves bend or ripple slightly as the shimmer passes, but don't break or fade. They're still intact. Observing the path can deduce the magic originated somewhere near the point in the air and traveled directly to the case. The scepter was taken without touching the case itself, implying some sort of precise, non-standard portal or device. This is the player a visual wow moment. You can still offer other spells later to give multi-sensory confirmation without repeating the same visual hint. Um, now I'll take that from here. That is this particular spell. So I can start with that at least. And my time is about up for today. Okay, so before I quit here, let's do this. Hit 1 for sight. Hit 2 for smell. Hit 3 for taste. Hit 4 for touch. Hit 5 for here. For here. And this is just an error kind of on purpose here. Like that. Okay. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and do the thing, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that should have did this earlier. I could have Could have done this earlier. Now I can probably make this a Wizard U location, or I could give it a new location, which would be the Wizard U trophy room. In which case I'll have to let's go to rooms, and let's go all the way down to 60, whatever it is, 40 something, 46. So let's make 47. 47 Wizard U trophy room. So we're gonna call this 47 Wizard U trophy room. That. And let's go ahead and do this and copy. Let's go over here. Actually, we'll do it like this. Go here, paste. Okay, let's go over here, paste. Go over here, paste. At least I got some actual progress. Even though paste. Okay. Honestly, I wonder if I shouldn't be writing all this stuff in. Now I'll have it in here as the rooms go themselves. But I wonder if I shouldn't actually go to like my notes and like put it in my notes as a thing that I'm doing. Anyways, let's go over here. Copy. Let's go over here. And we're just going to go ahead and we're going to paste. We're going to do the same thing on all these. Paste. 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 That. Okay, so, and then I'm just going to do this in order. So we're just going to say hit 1. No, hit 1 space. Hit 1, okay. 1 for here. Oh, I see what I did there. All right. This one. Hit 1 for touch. And we're just going to take these out. That out. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to say delete. We're going to say hit 1. We're going to delete these other 2. Then we're going to go over. Wait. Oh. Shoot. This. Control, no. Control X like that. Control V. Control V. Delete. Control V. Move paste, and we'll move that. Here we'll go ahead and Control V. Okay, and then these are going to be all ones here. So 1, 1, 1, 1, and that's already 1. Okay, good. All right. Now I'm going to make sure that they're here first, which is 47. So 47 was the trophy room. We're going to save room data. So, and we're going to check this out. And 47 trophy room. Right, like so. Okay. Now, the next thing I'm going to do here is we are going to go to array, the door specs, and it's going to be 47 Wizard U trophy room. So, home, control C. Just gonna copy these. So, and it's gonna be 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then, of course, this is going to be kind of the same way, except for honestly shouldn't have started with a non, but I did that kind of on purpose. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And I know I'm a little bit over, which case I'll probably be a little bit over on my break too. So don't nobody freak out when I don't come back exactly 1 hour. Well, it'll be exactly 1 hour later from when I leave, but exactly at 2 o'clock my time. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to make sure this is saved. I'm going to pull these down a little bit on purpose. I think my dad made some coffee, so I'm going to have some coffee when I go on my break in just a second. And now, let's see if it works. Save room data. Bing. Okay, so nothing connecting here. That's all right. And that should about do it for today's story points. Yeah, it's still going really slow. I know. It might take me the rest of this week to actually get this finished, but I have things here now. They're going to be the signal to detect the words to see if they've been tripped are going to be like the 5 senses, and then each of the 5 senses are going to hint at what Hubert's going to discover. When he actually leaves, he gets his hats, he comes back, and that's just going to be in like one thing. Like it's going to Blizzard U Hall here is going to go yeah, anyways. Okay, so that should do it for this part, for the story part. And so I'll be back in an hour with the second stream where we'll be continuing working on the panning and zooming, which I think ChatGPT actually helped me to solve that problem. Um, and so I'm just working on stuff like zooming out and making sure it kind of works. And I got a couple of things. Anyways, some code things. So I'll see you in an hour. And thanks for watching part one. And I will see you in an hour, or I will see you tomorrow if you're not interested in coding. Okay. Uh, thank you. Thank you for watching part one.